Good morning and welcome everybody to this webinar, How to Maximize Wellness Participation, presented by Dr. Stephen Aldana, the CEO of WellSteps, my business partner. I am so delighted, both of us are delighted that you're joining us today. This month and next month are kind of a twin set of webinars where you really dive in deep to help people figure out how to maximize participation. It's really a two-part equation, and I'll let Steve talk more about that during this webinar. I know that he's going to encourage you to register for our webinar coming up next month, in December 11th, about leadership support. And again, he'll talk more about that. Just a few items of housekeeping before we get started. First of all, there are over 700 of you who have registered for this webinar, about 723 to be exact. And to create a wonderful audio environment, we've had all phones muted. However, you can interact and participate in this webinar. As a matter of fact, Dr. Aldana prefers that you do and has created a number of ways that you can. But you can interact and ask questions anytime you would like by using the questions button on the GoToWebinar control panel, which you should see on the right side of your screen. To help you navigate all of the content in this webinar, Dr. Aldana has loaded the slides for this webinar presentation on our website. Just go to wellsteps.com, click on the webinars button, which is on the lower right-hand corner, and you will find the webinar materials, the slides, some other stuff have already been placed for you in the archives, webinar archives. If you got questions during the webinar, you can ask those and we'll help you do that. So it is with great pleasure that I would like to introduce my business partner, Dr. Stephen Aldana, who I have to say is the black belt ninja of marketing and communication, which are just two of the few things he's going to be talking about today. And I know for sure, because I know where he got his doctorate degree, that he never had a class, never had a college class on marketing, nor did I. Nor have I ever taught one, but somehow we've managed to learn. We're self-taught marketing. He's a self-taught marketing guru, I should say. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Stephen Aldana.
Thanks, Troy. Good morning, everybody. Again, we're honored to have you all here. I'm always surprised at the number of people who take a minute out of their time to join us for these webinars. What we want to do with you today, hopefully, is share with you some information you can really use. So here's our objectives for our meeting today. We're going to talk mainly about maximizing participation, but what are the strategies that we use to do that? One of the best ones, and there are several, is how we effectively market and communicate with our employees. So we're looking at understanding how to produce materials, flyers, information we share with people to get them to participate. We're going to understand all the different strategies that are needed to maximize participation, give you a step-by-step plan on how to do this on your own. I'm going to actually have you do this on the webinar today, so you get your hands a little dirty and try to, this is what we call the creative side of all of this. You have to do some brain training to try to think of how to do this in the best way, and we're going to do that in this webinar. And then I'm going to end it with some case studies on exactly how this whole process works, and in some real live companies. So our goal today is to help you improve the wellness program participation at your work site and to have a better understanding of what effective programs would look like, and more importantly, how they function. So again, what's the problem? I have shared this slide with most of you who've ever been on our webinars before. You've seen it a million times, but we're really all about improving employee health and lowering employee-related expenses. And I put employee-related expenses because that covers healthcare costs, it covers productivity, absenteeism, retention, recruitment, morale. They're all clumped together. I mean, at the end of the day, that's why we're here. We're here to impact those two factors in some way. Those two factors are directly impacted by chronic disease, which are impacted by elevated health risks like high blood cholesterol, obesity, high blood sugar, which are impacted by behavior. So we know how this process works, and we've studied this over and over and over. The goal for all of us, whether we're brokers or consultants or wellness professionals, is to reduce employee-related expenses and improve their health. And it all starts with behavior. That's the linchpin which all this process starts. So our goal is to improve employee health behaviors. Well, to do that, we've got to get people to participate in the programs, which brings us to today's discussion. Participation is the piece that starts all of this off. Without participation, that participation gets blocked. Then we're not going to have any success in changing behaviors, lowering elevated health risks, preventing chronic disease, or impacting these outcomes for which we're all striving for. So I've said in the past that, this is all driven by behavior. It's true. But to alter behavior, we've got to go upstream and we got to talk about participation, because we can't get people into these interventions, into these programs, into these competitions, into the biometric screening. If we don't get people to fully engage, then none of this process starts to work. The other approach that I've shared with you before is the model that we use. This comes from the RE-AIM framework, R-E-AIM, the RE-AIM framework, which is reach times impact. Reach is the maximum number of people that you're touching with your interventions. And this is actually participation. So when we take participants and we put them through an effective intervention, that's when we start to improve health behaviors. And by the way, this impact, that's really where the behavior starts to change. That's where we get awareness and education, tools and policies and skills and strategies and social support. That's the meat and the potatoes of this whole process, is the interventions that we're doing in these different programs. They could be the best interventions on the planet, but if we don't have people engaged and people doing it, then it's of no value. You have to have both reach and impact. I'm not going to talk about impact today. I'm going to talk about getting people to come, because even if you build it, they may not come. So our goal today is to work through this process of getting as many people to join us. Now, I'm going to start off with a differentiation here. There's a difference between participation and engagement. Participation is people actually showing up and being part of your programming, but they may be there begrudgingly, unwillingly, and therefore your engagement in this is going to be much, much lower. We think of it as participation versus engagement. You might have heard of this as action versus maintenance. If you are familiar with the stages of change model, action is getting people started, but they can fail anywhere along that way. Well, that's participation. They have to adopt and maintain these new behaviors that we're working so hard to share with people. So maybe you know it as action versus maintenance. Another one that we've used at WellSteps is this business of activation versus persistence. These are three ways of saying exactly the same thing. It's not enough to get people to activate or to participate. Even though the title of our webinar is Maximizing Participation, you have to have participation to get engagement. But you don't have to have, you have to have participation to get them to engage, but you can't have engagement without participation. So we start with participation as the first step. Then we want them to move into doing this long term, because the behaviors that we're trying to adopt and the benefits of those behaviors are only as good as we maintain the behaviors. So when you stop exercising, or you stop eating healthy, or you start smoking again, then the benefits that you have disappear. Elevated health risks will probably return. We're on the way to chronic disease, and we're not making any headway against our reasons for doing this. So let me give you some examples of this. Now, this is really important, because there's a lot of wellness programs who have outstanding participation and horrible engagement. If you have horrible engagement, then things don't turn out the way, they're not going to turn out the way you want. So I'll give you some case studies in just a couple seconds about that. This is one way we think about this. Here is your New Year's resolutions. So whatever that New Year's resolution is, eat less sugar, lose some weight, exercise more regularly, reduce my stress, whatever it is, that's kind of reflected on the y-axis. The x-axis down here at the bottom, that's months. So right around here, 12 months, we set a New Year's resolution where we really start to do really well, and it lasts about a month, and we're back to baseline where we were. And then the next year rolls around, and we set a New Year's another resolution where we're highly activated, highly motivated, and then maintenance falls off and we're back to where we were. This is typically what we get with a New Year's resolution. That's just one behavior during the month of January. We traditionally try to do these kinds of things. Here's another one you're probably familiar with, weight loss. So here's an individual who started at 235 pounds. They make it all the way down to 192. Takes them about 10 months to get there, and this is great progress. Now, they're at the bottom of this weight loss success trajectory. Now, there are two ways this thing can go. How many of you know somebody who has lost a fair amount of weight or a large amount of weight and maintained it or gained it back? So back to my point, this is activation. This is participation. They've done it. But the maintenance, that's what we normally see, which is why about 95% of the people who lose weight are at or above the original weight within 2 years, because we lose the ability to maintain this long term. What we want instead of this is for people to activate, to lose the weight, and then maintain that weight loss long term, because herein is where all the benefit resides. So I can take this and turn it upside down. Let's talk about getting people to eat fruits and vegetables. We have this great campaign. Maybe it's the Veggie Up campaign with Wealth Steps or some other program to get people to eat healthier foods. You get a nice increase of servings. They go from 2 to 6 servings a day, and they do really well. And then after the campaign or the intervention ends, they tend to waver a little bit, and it gradually over time works its way back to baseline. Well, we actually call this healthy behavior decay. And I published a paper on this in 2008 in the CDC's Journal of Interventions and Worksite Interventions. There's the reference there on the bottom. This is what we sometimes see. We see activation, people do really well. Participation, really good. I got a lot of people in my wellness program, Dr. Aldana. And then the realities of the world kicked in, and this thing slid off and started to taper and all the way go back down. Well, I'm proud to say, and you can look at that paper link there, that we were able to avoid healthy behavior decay. We were able to get people to adopt and maintain, adopt and or participate and engage across time. That's what we're really shooting for with this. Now let me just compare and contrast participation versus engagement. So here is a case study. I got a call probably 3 years ago from a bicycle manufacturer. And this isn't the manufacturer, by the way, but it's a manufacturer of bicycles. And they have a very, very good wellness program. To get people to participate, they're very zealous, well-meaning CEO, albeit a little bit off track on this, made the decision that to participate in the wellness program, you will earn a premium differential, a reduction in your insurance premium if you participate. If you don't participate, not only do you not get the premium reduction, but you also pay the employer portion of your insurance. We're talking $1,200 to $1,500 a month for the cost of insurance if you don't participate. Well, the call to me was to say, Dr. Aldana, we've got this plan in place and we have 100% participation, which I thought was amazing until I discovered how they got it. If you don't participate, it costs you $1,500 a month. So they got 100% participation, but their engagement was horrific. People didn't want to be there. They didn't want to do the stuff. They didn't want to do any of it. They were being forced. They felt like Big Brother was really stepping on them really hard. They would falsify data entry. They would fake their stuff. So what they had was really high participation and pitiful engagement. So they were being forced to do this at a very expensive cost. And they'd been doing it for 3 years, and none of their healthcare costs have changed. None of their health risks had improved because they had horrible engagement. So you can have high participation and non-existent engagement depending upon how you do that. So here's another one. These are actual companies. This is an automobile parts manufacturer, and to get the premium differential, here's their incentive. You must have each of these 3 items in order to qualify for the incentive. The incentive was, I think, $60 or $70 a month off your premium, insurance premium. So you had to have a BMI of less than 32. That's a problem because 45% of the population was obese. And then it's not obese. Obese is 30, but they raised it to 32. You can have no tobacco use. And to verify it, they're going to do a saliva test. So they're going to actually swab your spit, swab your mouth, test for nicotine to make sure you're complying with this requirement. And you could not have elevated systolic or diastolic blood pressure. And they even raised the limits to 135/85. So you have to have all three. Well, after looking at their biometric data, there were very few employees who are going to reach each of these three criteria. In this particular organization, 65% of the population smoked as well. So here we have low participation because nobody is going to reach that threshold, and low participation. If their goal was to just tick people off, they've probably done a fabulous job of it. So here's another case study. This is Utah County. Utah County is the county that we're in here. They have 98% participation in their wellness program. They have very, very good programming in place that people really like. And their incentive around this, with all their marketing and everything, there is a HSA contribution of, I believe, about $135 a quarter, and a premium discount, a premium surcharge if you don't participate of about $25 a quarter. So yes, mostly carrots, a little bit of sticks. Everybody's going to get the premium discount except those that don't participate. And that's $25 a quarter more you have to pay. But they get 98% participation. So here's the ideal. Here's extremely high participation for the right reasons, without arm twisting, with lots of carrots rather than sticks, and subsequently, very, very high engagement. They love the program. They share the program with family, friends, and relatives. There's teams, and they have a lot of fun, and they give rewards, and it's just changing the entire emotion and culture of the organization because they're having so much fun. This is an ideal that we're shooting for. Here's another one. This is a hospital in North Carolina, Midwest. 861 employees, 830 participate in the behavior change campaigns. That's 96%. They do the same thing, only their incentive was $30 a month for a premium differential, but their marketing materials was highly tailored to them. Again, very high participation, very high engagement. This is the ideal for a wellness program to have success because it has both participation and engagement. So here we are. Here's the model. If we want to move these metrics of health-related costs and employee health, then we've got to remove this barrier of participation. We've got to make people participate and engage. So here's your typical workforce and what that workforce would look like. Your employees, and you can fill in the blank with whatever your subset of employees are. Within your organization, your goal is to encourage all of these people to participate and engage in your programming. Well, it's important to realize that off the bat, right at the beginning, between about 10 and 25% of your people, they're already doing all of the health behaviors that you would like them to do. They don't smoke, they exercise, they have a healthy diet, they control their stress, they wear their seatbelt, they keep their elevated health risks low, they're on medication if they need it. They're already doing this, and quite frankly, all the wellness programming in the world is going to just encourage them to continue. But even without your wellness program, this group would probably do it. Well, it's easy to get these people to join in because they already are. They're going to get all the incentives and the benefits. They're already experiencing the life-changing benefits of a healthy lifestyle, but they're in your group. You have them. Now, maybe that group's not as small as it is in some organizations, but nonetheless, it's there. And then you've got another 25% of these people that need serious motivation and support. This is a group that's going to have to require some very effective marketing, a well-structured incentive, senior leadership, the kinds of ideas and strategies to get participation, but they will come. Even with some pretty minimal types of marketing and approaches, they will come and they will participate. They're easily swayed into your program if it's set up correctly. The next 25% is this group that you got to beg and plead. I mean, you got to really ask them, and you got to use peer pressure, and you got to recruit spouses, and you got to do some things to get this group to come along. The incentives have to be in the right place. This is a group that's going to run if you're going to beat them with a stick, but they'll really engage if you're going to give them a carrot. So positive incentives work well, and very positive messaging in your materials will work. And then all of you, without exception, have the 25% of your group I call the over my dead body group. They have no desire to participate in your wellness for a variety of reasons. One, they may think that an employer involvement in their health is an invasion of privacy. My health or my lifestyles outside of work is none of your business. I feel like this is an overreach of Obamacare, however they want to structure it. My point is they want nothing to do with your program. You got to really, really try hard, and in some cases, forget about them because they're never going to come. One example of this group, if we look at individuals who have had recent cardiac events, they've undergone stents, bypasses. This is a group that does cardiac rehabilitation after their event. So we have middle-aged older men who've had cardiac events who have survived a deadly disease. And now they're at the point where you have another chance at life. All right, this group, over my dead body, I'm not going to change, has survived a critical event, and now they're doing exercise together, doing cardiac rehab. Now here's an interesting question. What percentage of these post-cardiac patients who are now fully engaged in adopting healthy lifestyles, what percentage of them continue to be physically active after 6 months of their event? Let me put it another way. Of all the people who survived a heart attack, who start cardiac rehab, who try to change their lifestyles, how many of them are still active? 25%. So this group over my dead body, literally, figuratively, over my dead body, even the dead body may not be enough to convince them to engage and persist with this long term. So you've got this kid, when he grows up, he's pretty obstentious, he doesn't want to do much for you, he doesn't want to be pushed around, and now he's your software engineer. How do you get this guy to participate in your wellness programs? And he's sitting right next door to this guy who wants nothing to do with you. You just get your wellness fluff out of here. Well, okay, how do we really do this? So let's get into the nuts and bolts as to how this is really going to take place and what it takes to pull it off. We've reviewed all the published literature, about which there is very little, but we've talked to so many clients. Dr. Adams and I have spent so much time visiting and trying to solve this problem, crack this nut. This is kind of it right here. We've got about 6 things that really impact the level of participation and engagement. We'll start at the very top. You've got to have effective communication materials. This is called what I call effective marketing. You've got to talk to people in the right way, in the right tone, with the right problems, with the right messaging, with the right call to action to get them again. This is marketing, and we experience marketing every day in all that we do. That's one piece, and the one I'm going to spend most of the time on today. We've got leadership support and this wellness committee, and the visible ways in which leaders can support or encourage employees to participate can also affect participation and engagement. It depends on how it's done. If it's done with a big brother, top-down, punitive approach, it sends a very different message than if it's done with a leader who is providing time for a wellness committee to get together, encouraging employees to participate, someone who participates himself, someone who does all the things that they need to do to work with management, to get management to allow employees to engage, and the support of this employee-created wellness committee. Those 2 items are actually a very, very important topic. In fact, they are the focus of next month's webinar, 6 ways that leaders can support worksite wellness programs. And it's a differentiator for us on groups that have high engagement and those who don't. Even if they have really good marketing, leadership is a critical piece to this. The communication channels. How does the organization communicate with their employees? I mean, what modalities do you use? Email, text messaging, letters, interoffice mail, carrier pigeon, or no communication channels. One of our groups that we work with is spread out at about 200 different locations in the U.S., and they try to mail materials out to their different off-site retail offices, and lo and behold, about 20 to 30% of those mailings are returned undelivered. which tells me this is an organization that doesn't have communication channels. They can't mail something to 20 to 30% of their employees because they can't find them. Well, that's a problem for a variety of reasons, but it's a special problem for wellness. Unless those communication channels are there and accepted and used and controlled, some organizations might have just an email free-for-all and everybody emails everybody everything all the time, then the important stuff or the business-related stuff can get lost in the milieu. And then on the left we have incentives, and I've split them down into two. We've got the small, short-term plugs, these little tiny incentives, little gift cards, trophies, mementos, recognitions. Sometimes we call some of this stuff swag. The water bottle and the squeeze ball or the t-shirt, whatever that is. They're important for a variety of reasons. And then we have the big one, which is benefits-based incentives. Incentives that are directed, connected with benefits. And that can be any variety of health savings account contributions, premium distributions, but you all know most of this. Let's just briefly talk about it. The incentive piece, WellSteps has done some fabulous webinars on incentives, and I'm not going to talk about it today. But yeah, we're dangling carrots, money in front of people to get them to do some things to hopefully move in the right direction. Most of that dangling is gifts, prizes, gym membership. This is a 2006 couple of surveys we've combined. The most recent stuff now is on the bottom. Premium reductions and contributions to HSAs. Those are the big ones now that we see most often. Some general rules: don't make a big deal of the incentive. Make a big deal of the benefits. And by benefits, I mean the physiological, emotional, spiritual, mental, the changes that occur to an employee when they engage in a healthy behavior. Those benefits, not your employee benefits. The changes that occur to a person's life, the transformations that occur to people, that's what make people do this. I often say this. Many of you on the webinar today exercise regularly and participate in healthy lifestyles, and yet no one pays you or gives you money to do this. You do it because you like the way it makes you feel. That is what allows you to maintain or persist in the behavior. Incentives are good enough to jumpstart people to get them going, but this has to transition over into physical, emotional, and social benefits for the individual. Then the behavior will persist. And make sure your employees know what all the benefits are. And I just listed some of those. The what's in it for me list: weight loss, better sleep, fit into some different clothes, feel better, not be as tired. Those are the benefits that I'm talking about. So in this particular case, motivation is what this is. What motivates you to be active? Motivation is the biological, emotional, social, cognitive forces that activate behavior. Motivation is the key to a big part of this. And motivation is when a person does something, they're motivated for whatever reason to do this. So now we're going to balance out incentives and marketing, and this all ties together very well. You want to make the right choice easy and the wrong choice hard because of motivational factors. Your benefits-based wellness program is going to have, could be carrots, could be sticks, but we try to make it easy. Look, if you participate, you will qualify for a different benefit plan or you get a premium differential, but you don't have to. That makes it hard to make the wrong choice, easy to make the right choice. Healthy food that's available at work makes it easy. Flexible schedule and some time to be active makes it easy to do this. And if my management supports me on this, it's easy for me to be active. So people are going to move toward pleasure and away from pain. So a reward after the correct action creates these positive associations, and there's a neurological explanation for this. When you do something, a new behavior, and you experience pleasure because of that, that pleasure is actually manifested in a neurochemical exchange in your brain that is associated with the pleasure sensors of your brain. Not only do you like the immediate sensation, but you look forward to doing it again. And that's this motivation to persist. This is maintenance. I exercise because I like the way it makes me feel. Or I change my diet because I feel better and my stomach doesn't hurt. I have better digestion when I do. I like the way my teeth feel, how they're cleaner and crisper when I have a diet that's a little bit more towards foods grown in their natural form. I hear that one every once in a while. Again, the pleasure sensor lights up. I feel good about this. I think I want to do that again. That was a good thing. And that's where motivation can happen for a lot of people. So immediate positive rewards have a greater impact on that behavior. So immediately after or during the event, we get a positive, pleasurable experience, or I get some type of reward. You know, that gift card that you handed out at the end of that campaign or the end of that program, when that person got that gift card, there was a slight but very real neurobiological change in their brain where they felt a very small amount of pleasure when they got the card. They kind of went, $50. I wonder what I can do with that. And they start to imagine. And it's associated or negative consequences have little impact on behavior. So yes, if you participate in everything for the full year, we'll give you $50. Nobody cares about that a year later. The immediate short-term stuff has the biggest impact. It also has the biggest impact on consequences because the behavior and the reward are close together. They're immediately connected with each other. Said another way, the negative consequences are immediate also. So when you do something you shouldn't have done, the negative consequences kick in very quickly, and you remember that. Here's a little test for you. Here's your burger, double bacon, double, 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 double. And this is a delicious, short-term, pleasurable experience that probably has some very negative long-term consequences. One of the issues is that the distance or the time between the action, eating the double, 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 and the possibility of a cardiac event later in life are separated by such a long distance in time that they become irrelevant. So my worrying about having heart disease is an irrelevant decision when I'm faced with that burger right now. The distance between those two is too great. It's too far to be realistic. So I'm not going to talk anymore about incentives. And next month's webinar is leadership and support and committees. I'm going to talk about this top one, but let me just show you how all of these fit together. We combined data from a variety of sources. We used our aggregate data on participation. We used a couple of surveys from Towers Watson and the National Business Group on Health. We also used some other data, and we combined all together to show what's the impact of these different strategies in this whole participation engagement strata. So if you're going to do emails, posters, and word of mouth, some pretty simple, basic communications, you're going to get about 19% of your people to participate. Quite frankly, you can do very little, and you're going to get 19% of those people to engage. If you decide to ramp it up a little bit and bring in some more of these different strategies, such as small incentives and swag, participate, get a chance to win a gift card, participate and get a half day off, participate and get a t-shirt or a water bottle. See, now all of a sudden I'm sitting at about 43-45% of everybody with those simple things. What we're missing from this strategy is the committee, leadership, support, and very effective marketing. How do we change the message to get people to engage? How do we get committee to provide ownership? And how do we have visible, successful leadership support? Now I'm sitting at about 64% of the participants because of those activities we've done to boost participation and engagement. The piece that's missing is your benefits-based strategy. And that's because they're powerful. In the case of Utah County, it's an HSA contribution total of $800 per year. And if you don't participate, it's going to cost you $100. They're going to assess you $25 a quarter. Mostly carrots, a little bit of a stick, tied to benefits. 98% of the people are engaged because they love getting the HSA contribution. So you can get, in this case, the average came up to 94%, which is a lot. 94% participation and engagement by incorporating each of these. I want to focus on, by the way, that's the 50% mark. That's part of the WellSteps performance guarantee. we're going to guarantee that 50% are going to engage, and that means to participate in the actual behavior change campaigns. You know, something like a health risk appraisal, that's easy. You can get 90%, 100% participation with that, but that doesn't change behavior. Our performance guarantee says it's 50. We put it at 50 because we were always way further than that. We're much higher in the mid 70s, but that's kind of where we draw the line for people to see. All right, marketing messaging. How do we make this messaging work? And I'm going to show you 3 strategies that we use. And before I get into that, I just want to warn you that we have already used these 3 strategies on you. You're here on this webinar today because you have been influenced by these 3 strategies. And I can almost guarantee you, you don't know it, but like a 2-year-old to his parents, you have been carefully manipulated and you don't even know you've been manipulated. So I apologize in advance. Welcome to the world of marketing, but Steve Aldana and Troy Adams have manipulated you to participate in this campaign, in this webinar, and I'm going to show you exactly how we did it. And you don't even know you were manipulated because we follow these 3 strategies. Now, I say that in advance because I'm going to show you the next slide, and you're probably going to roll your eyes and go, "Oh yeah, right. That's so stupid. This is so simple. I mean, everybody knows that." But I'm going to prove to you why this is so stinking powerful. And don't dismiss this. Just watch how this rolls out and you will see. It's 3 things to get people to participate. It's create compelling copy. That's the marketing term for the written words that you say need to be compelling. You need to offer something of value. And lastly, you need a call to action. What is it that you want these people to do? So very briefly, good copy. Well, good copy is compelling written information. If you want me to show up and do it, then I want you to help me solve a problem I have. People like to have problem solved. They like to have their lives made better. They want to improve. So I use the word problem. Okay, one way to look at employees is, what are your employees' problems? Because if they don't have any problems, they don't need no stinking wellness program. They have problems. What are your problems? Well, these are creating solutions to those problems. Poor health. I wish I felt better. I've gained a lot of weight. I wish I didn't weigh so much. I have elevated health risks. My wife is worried and I'm worried. These are problems. I don't sleep very well at night. Well, maybe they don't have a problem. Maybe some of your really healthy people, your really high wellness, maybe there are problems outside of the realm of wellness. Maybe there are social and family problems that they're not really in touch with wellness. If you think that high healthcare costs is an employee problem, you're mistaken. Now, when we use this term called the marketing persona, that means who's the purpose, who's the target of your marketing? Who are you sending these messages to? Well, for most of you, it's your employees. The employee is your marketing persona, the person that you're trying to touch. I always put myself in their shoes. I'm Bob. I'm in payroll. Yes, here are some of the problems I have in my life. Healthcare costs is not a problem I have in a life. And don't get this confused. Healthcare costs isn't a problem for the employer, but the employer is not the marketing persona. It's the employee. Yes, healthcare costs are critical to this. Employee productivity is critical to employers. That's not the reason why employees are doing this. This is not an employee problem. Employees love low productivity, and they don't care about healthcare costs because they usually have an insurance card, and it doesn't affect them as much. Maybe less now because of high deductible plans, and it's a problem. But those are employer problems, not employee problems. So it's not what you want. It's what your employees want. Put yourselves in their shoes. Think like an employee. So anytime you offer any type of wellness offering, whatever it is, whether it's complete the health risk appraisal or do the biometric screening or participate in the Maintain Don't Gain campaign, you need to position that as if we're going to solve an employee's problem. Part 2, offer something of value. If I do this, what do I get? Well, hopefully I'll get solutions to my problems, but what do I get is your value proposition. Better health, lower weight, tastier food, better digestion, fewer medications, less stress. The possibility of having your spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend say you look hot. You look really good, honey. That's a value proposition. This is what you're selling. There's a financial incentive if you do this. Maybe it's a small gift card or a premium differential or a benefits-based incentive. Maybe you'll be happier. Maybe this transformation will make you feel better about life. We're selling the opportunity to have a higher quality life. And we are. Maybe you're just selling hope. I mean, there's a lot of people who sell hope and do stuff. So if you're offering something of value, people will respond because they're seeing what's in it for me. Higher productivity is not something of value. It's something of devalue for them. So be careful here. What do people want? How do they want their lives better? What do they value in their lives? Third, this collateral, well, this marketing that ties into this, your message, that whatever you're offering, it should resonate. People should see that and go, oh, I like that. Or, hey, I'm interested. Or, you've piqued my interest. I want to learn more. So you got to communicate in multiple ways, in multiple times, multiple modalities. So again, email, printed materials, newsletters, website, posters, tabletop tents, meeting announcements, staff meetings, word of mouth. You get the idea. You got to get the word out. Video, there's just so many different ways to do it. Multiple ways, multiple modalities with something of value. Now you start to reach people. Spouses. Well, wait a minute. Spouses aren't a communication modality. Oh, yes, they are. In fact, in some of our campaigns, we communicate and send the postcards and the announcements to the employee's significant other. Not the employee. We send it to the significant other, or we do both, because the spouse may find something of value and want the employee to engage with him or her. So spouses are a critical communication piece to this to get participation to be where you want it to be. And then lastly, it's the call to action. Register, sign up, join us. Whatever this call to action is, get screened, take the HRA, tell them what you want them to do, then tell them again what you want them to do. You have to hold their hand and walk them over there and say, touch that button, join now, get screened, talk to whatever it is. You've got to tell them exactly what you want. Now, these 3 steps have a lot of different nuances and a lot of different approaches to make it really easy and compelling for you guys to understand this. We did this little infographic. It's a little one-page graphic that says, here's how you maximize this reach, and you can find it at wellsteps.com/tools. Those of you who are scrambling for the slides, go to wellsteps.com and click on the webinars link, and I've already posted the slides, but this infographic is on here, and it allows you to see in one simple, easy to remember format these 3 items. The infographic is a colorful, simple way to remind you for everything that you communicate with, everything that you do, you use 3 things: compelling copy, offer something of value, and include a call to action. All right, now let's do the quiz portion of this. Let's see if this is really setting in. I'm going to open the curtains at WellSteps, and I'm going to show you one of our posters that we have in every location that has any company that's doing any of our campaigns get posters for all the campaigns. This is the one for stress. Here it is. Stress-free? ? Feel less stress now. Learn simple steps to reduce the stress in your life. When you finish, you could win a $50 gift card. Join us, stress-free, register, here you go. So if you look carefully at this and we think, okay, there's 3 things. Compelling copy. What's the compelling message here? Feel less stress now. What are we offering you? What's the value proposition? The value proposition is to give you 3 steps to reduce the stress in your life. That's the value proposition. And lastly, what's the call to action at the very end? Join us. And here's how you do that. Simple, simple, simple. Okay. It's a very smart group on the webinar today. Let's just go one step further. Here's another poster that we provide that provides the same information, but it's a different topic. This is the, I believe this is the Move It campaign. So this is physical activity. Being active has never been easier. So I'm going to knock down a barrier. One of the problems is it's hard to be active, so let's solve that problem. I've hidden these. We have offering something of value, compelling copy, and we have a call to action. So if you're looking at this campaign and you're supposed to be designing this, what would you tell people? This is a physical activity campaign. You want people to be active. Why should I do that? Why should I engage in this program? What's in it for me? Can you think of some reasons why people should do this? In fact, they should be reasons that a lot of people can relate to. Are you ready? Have you got something? Figure it out in your mind. I want you to be more active because what's in it for me? Okay, well, that's your value proposition. You will feel and look better than ever. Ooh, I would like to have that in my life. I don't feel well, and I'm not really happy with the way I look. I will feel and look better than ever. Oh, you could also win a $50 gift card. That's that little short incentive, that little swaggy thing at the very end. And again, call to action. Join us for Move It. There's your call to action. So you get it? Compelling copy, offer something of value, call to action. Ready? One more. This is our Good Night program. This is a sleep enhancement, sleep quality program. Good Night. Had one lately. I think my employees would benefit from being able to sleep better and have a better night's sleep. How can I get them to engage? What would compel people to want to do this campaign? What's the value proposition for a good night's sleep? Now this, you're going to have to sit around and you have to think these up, word it in a way that people can relate to, let them see it. You got an idea? What would you put in here? When you sleep better, what changes in your life? Boom. Feel and function better with improved sleep. Oh man, I feel crappy. I don't function very well. This is the value proposition. Oh, swag. When you finish, you could win a $50 gift card because everybody wants a gift card. Call to action, join us for a good night. Okay, you getting the idea here? Compelling copy. Good night. Had one lately? Not really. I'd love to have a good night's sleep. Value proposition. Feel and function better, get some money. Boom, tell me what you want me to do. Okay, Dr. Aldana, this is all pretty simplistic. I get it. Does it really work? Well, this is the overall strategy and how it's all pulled together. That's one piece, just the effective marketing piece of this strategy. We talk about the small incentive. I'm not going to talk about leadership support and the best incentive programs because we have other webinars for those, but it's an important piece. If you're going to improve employee health care costs or related costs and improve employee health, you've got to get people into your effective programs and campaigns, and you've got to get participation. Does this really work? I mean, can we really get people to engage in this process? And it seems so simple and so basic. Well, let me ask you a question. If this process works, we should have some evidence that it works. So there are 1,100 people who clicked on this webinar to register. 1,100 people who clicked on the register button. Not everybody registered. 723 of you actually registered through the registration process. So somewhere between click on the registration button and register, we lost about 20%. And I have a pretty good idea why. But here is the message that you received about this webinar. You got a WellSteps report, or you went to our website and you saw this. How to maximize wellness program participation. Compelling copy. Problem. What's my problem? I don't have very good participation, Dr. Aldana. How do I change that? Then we gave you some value proposition and we had a call to action. Can you identify the three pieces? Here we go. Compelling copy. How do I get people interested? How do I get leadership spouses and everybody to participate? I hooked you with this piece. Then I said, well, what's in it for you? Learn the 3 steps. Choose the right words. Use a different media and messaging to make this thing work. There's your value proposition. And lastly, call to action. So you don't know, but when you registered for this webinar, you fell right into my trap. I'm just kidding. That's what we do. It's compelling copy. Give me a reason to engage with you. Convince me that I should participate in this. What's in it for me? Well, there's lots in it for you. And then give me a call to action. That's the process that we use. And whether you are willing to belittle this or make fun of it, whatever you want, there's apparently 1,100 of you who are interested enough to go to the registration page, and another 750 who clicked and said, yeah, I want to do this. This process works. It's not perfect because we lost about 20% between the registration process, but 700 people showed up because of compelling copy, value proposition, call to action. In all of our WellSteps campaigns and in our entire book of business, getting people to actually engage in those behavior change campaigns, we have 77% of every single company in our book of business is engaged in this process, in the behavior change process. So we have lots of evidence that this thing works. And then we've got the summary. Without participation and engagement, wellness will not produce your positive outcomes. This best engagement strategy, it's multi-pronged. Leadership, committees, incentives, effective communication, and effective marketing and communications makes a big difference. I'm going to give you one more proof point that this works. You have been engaged in this webinar, and this webinar was designed around those exact same 3 principles. So here's what we did in the webinar today. How are they used? Well, you got compelling copy. I provided information that was interesting to you in a way that you enjoyed it. We talked about the WellSteps model. We talked about brief incentives. So I tried to have some good graphics, and they're very clean. So I had compelling copy. What was offered of value here? Well, the strategies on how to pull this off was offered of value. The infographic that we created was offered to provide value for this. In fact, our value proposition is really pretty easy because the entrance requirement for this webinar is free. So you didn't put much on the table. You get all this back. Okay, what are we missing? Compelling copy. Okay, you got me, engaged me. Something of value. Here's the strategies. Here's how it works. Here's this nice infographic I can send to anybody in my committee. I can talk to my broker. What are we missing? Call to action. Oh, trust me, we haven't forgotten that. There's 2. There's the webinar next month. 6 ways leaders can support employee wellness. Oh, wait. Call to action. Join our next webinar. That's a call to action. In this particular case, we have an even deeper, more obvious call to action with this, and that is talk with a WellSteps expert and let us show you how we leverage all of these pieces to maximize participation and engagement and to improve your outcomes. So the call to action here is obviously talk to Whitney or Jeff and at least let them show you what this thing looks like. So now you've been highly manipulated by a 2-year-old. You know exactly how this system works. Don't belittle it. Your being here today is proof that it works really well. Troy? We've got some questions.
We do, yeah. Thank you, Steve. Probably the best comment of the entire webinar came from Roger, right? When you were talking about the 3 parts of the recipe, he said, "Where is my $50 gift card?"
There you go.
He registered today. It's not very common that when I read these questions that come in during the webinar that I actually laugh, and I laughed on that one. That's a good one. You've got some good questions here. Jennifer wants to know, in terms of messaging employees, what is your opinion on using scary health stats to motivate? Does it work or does it cause adverse health effects? Your opinion on that, Steve?
We add that question all the time. It's the stick versus carrot. It's fear versus hope. I think there's always a small segment of every workforce that can be motivated this way. It's a very militaristic, top-down big brother approach. The one that comes to mind to me was a company that was having a smoking cessation program. This was a construction company. And they brought in the lady who has a stoma. She's had an opening in her trachea so she can speak because she was a smoker. She's really, very attractive, very, very pretty woman. They brought her on site to talk to these guys about tobacco. And so it was a complete fear approach. but these were pretty rough and tumble construction guys. And to be honest with you, I have to say it was pretty impressive. For that audience, that approach actually worked pretty darn well. But I would say, in my mind, when in doubt, carrots are the best approach. People want to be led with love and caring rather than beat into submission. And you just have to balance it out. I'm not going to say it's 100%, daisies and roses and carrots. There's a place for it. Be gentle. Be gentle with it. I wouldn't use it on females. I would use it on males. Some males who may have a predisposition towards higher than usual risks in their lives.
Okay. We have another question, and we had a question pop in which is very similar. So Kara asked this question earlier. Mike just asked this question. I'm going to read Kara's question, but your answer is going to apply to Mike as well. She says, any effective marketing suggestions for a healthcare company where approximately 90% of employees do not have company email, are in 5 different locations, and in 4 different cities with only one director of wellness? And I'm betting that Kara is at one director of wellness, feeling pretty stressed out. So you address that for Kara and Mike, Steve?
Well, now we're back to that question. How do you communicate with your employees? Obviously, you communicate with them. And if they're healthcare providers, I guarantee you have a way to reach to them, whether it's a safety meeting or a training meeting or a payroll stuffer, or maybe your payroll is all electronic deposit now, and you can actually attach messages to your pay stub when you do electronic deposit. So we used to talk about payroll stuffers. No, you can put the message right on their pay stub that goes to them and they can see it. I guarantee you they have an email address. You just don't have it. They have a mobile device and they also have a cell phone. Every single one of them has got a cell phone. Well, if you're truly a healthcare provider, then you have ways of reaching these people in cases of emergency, any type of, Red Cross emergencies. These people are supposed to be kind of on call. At a minimum, a cell phone, you can text them these messages. You can WhatsApp them the messages. You can email them. They have them. You just got to collect them in your data set.
That's great. Thank you so
Posters,
much.
Spouses, the list goes on.
This is another question from, her name is Kira. She said they've been using a premium differential surcharge on people who don't participate for about 3 years now. The crux of the whole thing is that participating employees earn about $500 a year. She says they have good participation, and this touches on a few questions asked earlier by other participants. Good participation, but not good engagement. And I told one of these people, and so let me finish the question. What would you recommend to increase engagement and/or, encourage intrinsic motivation?
Well, there are reasons to not participate. If you think about it, we're trying to convince people to do something they don't want to do. We, wellness providers, wellness professionals, health professionals, we're trying to convince people to do something they don't want to do. It's fun to become obese. It's fun to smoke. It's pleasurable to not exercise for a lot of people. That double is delicious. So there is a barrier that faces this. Your wellness programs need to be fun. They need to be engaging. They need to have peer pressure. You can do team-based. You can change it up. You can keep it fresh. You've got to do back handsprings to make these things seem compelling and fun to people to participate. Programs have a tendency to get stale pretty quick. If your program has been going on for 3 years, I'm pretty sure it's at least gone through the beginning parts of the staleness phase. So it's time to change it up. Do something really different. It has to be different. It has to be fun. It has to be competitive. It has to be rewarding. We're trying to convince people to do something they don't want to do, and there's a lot to be done to keep those things fresh. So that's why we have about 28 different campaigns at WellSteps, and we're always changing them up because people want to do different stuff, and they want it to be fun.
That touches on a question asked by David. He said you mentioned participation in the 70s in your programs. He asked about long-term engagement 3 to 5 years later. Says that's the kind of question that the business world is asking him in his business. And I think he's in Oklahoma or Texas somewhere with Blue Cross Blue Shield. the question that the business world is asking them to answer demonstrate success. So what about the long-term story?
Well, now we're getting to the outcomes. Improved health expenses for improved health and change in employee expenses. If you plug in the pieces we've talked about, then the outcomes will happen. Shorter outcomes will happen immediately. Health improvements will happen very quickly. But when we look at other changes in healthcare costs, they do take time, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But we wouldn't be doing this if we haven't seen wonderful work sites that have done amazing things on controlling their employee-related expenses, all the while helping their employees improve the length and quality of their lives. So the data out there on the impacts of these programs is very compelling. What we're missing is we see a lot of wellness programs that have very low participation. Boredom has set in. It's no longer novel. It's gotten tired. People go back to their old ways and it becomes stale. That's an issue that every employer has to face. And to expect a single individual who's running a wellness program to be really creative and to come up with all these different campaigns and all these and to keep them fresh, that's a big task given everything that they're asked to do.
That's awesome. Well, we've run out of time. I'm going to apologize in advance to those of you who have asked some wonderful questions that we have to leave in queue. We'll try to reach out to you and get those questions answered. In the meantime, we would like to. Well, I would just turn the time back to you, Steve, for a farewell, and then we'll close this thing down.
Thanks, everybody. It's been great. Hopefully, we provided some information you can work with.
Great week.